minutes.
Well, Presiding Officer, Alan Brown says that nuclear is not a clean energy. You should tell his beloved EU that. They've redesignated nuclear as green and clean. And he tied himself up in knots over those costs. I'm afraid he's denying the reality of the most recent CFD round. And when he talks about Hinkley Point C, and he's dismissive of what's happened at Hinkley Point C, one of the great opportunities I had as a member of the House of Commons, the Business Select Committee, was to visit Hinkley Point C. And you know what I heard as I wandered around that site? Scottish voices. Scottish voices. Young Scots with a career in mind in nuclear energy. They've left their beloved Scotland. And I sat in a committee room of this Parliament in the last 18 months with apprentices, Scottish apprentices in the nuclear industry, and they lamented the fact that they knew that if they were to pursue their career in nuclear, they would have to leave their own country. As a nationalist, Alan Brown should be ashamed to be responsible for such a Luddite, anti-science approach to the future energy needs of our country. Because Scotland should be one of the world's great leading energy nations, and Liam Kerr spelt that out in terms of renewables. We are for renewables, and Alan Brown may seek to deny it, but renewables are with us today at the scale they are because of the very subsidies that he was just attacking. And Liam Kerr also mentioned oil and gas, and the SNP should take note of the result of the Aberdeen South by-election, because that was a referendum on the future of oil and gas licences. And for all the charade of claiming that the SNP are for oil and gas, the evidence in the minds of the voters of Aberdeen South, and nearly 50% of them voted for a retention of that sector and for new licence to be granted, which is the position, is not the position of the SNP. So it is, in my opinion, anti-science to oppose this. It's not the only issue that the SNP have taken an anti-science position on, because nuclear power is one of the lowest carbon forms of electricity generation available anywhere in the world. And it provides dependable electricity regardless of the weather. It strengthens energy security. It supports highly skilled employment. And increasingly, countries across the world are recognising that achieving net zero will be far harder without it. And the story of Torness demonstrates exactly why. 4 decades, it's generated reliable, clean electricity for Scotland. It has produced more than 300 terawatt-hours of electricity, prevented over 100 million tonnes of carbon emissions, and supported hundreds of highly skilled jobs. I will give way.
Alan Brown.
I thank him for giving way. Just back to this reliability about nuclear. So apart from at the start I gave earlier on, it's only operational 78% of the time on average on a long-term basis. Isn't it the case if even more nuclear and too much nuclear comes on, the problem is nuclear is turning out all the time, and then there's going to be even higher constraint payments required to turn off turbines because nuclear it can't be turned off or ramped down?
Stephen Kerr.
Alan Brown, again, finding some spurious reason to deny the reality of the reliability of nuclear. Yeah, there may be bottlenecks. There may be bottlenecks in the transmission system. There may be bottlenecks. But it's for us as policymakers to deal with those issues. Most governments, Alan Brown, most governments are looking at the achievements of a place like Torness and asking, how can we build on that success, but not an SNP government? Their answer has been to say no. No to new nuclear, no to investment, no to jobs, no to opportunities, and that is not a serious industrial strategy. The SNP would rather stick to outdated ideological positions where they try and tie nuclear power with nuclear weapons and spread fear and disinformation. No basis in science or reality, rather than show ambition for Scotland. Now, England has expanded its nuclear ambitions and has attracted billions of pounds of investment. Ironically, it was under a Minister for Nuclear Energy, who is a Scottish Member of Parliament, Andrew Bowie. But Scotland has watched those opportunities pass by. Skilled workers have left. Expertise, I've already mentioned, migrating elsewhere. Projects that could have transformed local economies. Liam Kerr rightly pointing out that those are some of the most deprived local economies in Scotland. Simply never materialised for a simple denial of reality. These are not abstract statistics. The apprenticeships were not created. The engineers were not employed. The scientists were not retained. And there are families denied the security that comes from well-paid, highly skilled jobs. And now we stand on the threshold of the other thing that Alan Brown started to dismiss, small nuclear reactors. Well, I ask him to look at France, because France is an interesting case study in terms of serious energy policy. Look at the way that France has been able to weather the shock of global energy prices. Why? Because they have determined to truly become independent in terms of energy sources, including nuclear, which is the backbone of the energy system. And I will conclude simply by saying the SNP may choose dogma, the SNP may choose decline, but Scotland, the people of Scotland, the Scottish Conservatives choose a future that is much brighter than that. Because we need our oil and gas, but we need nuclear. And a serious government and a serious political party that believes in putting the interests of Scotland first would support all of that.